Good evening and welcome. Tonight we delve into a profoundly significant and often contentious issue, the use of lethal force by police. Specifically, we are examining the question, should its application be more stringently restricted? This is a debate that touches upon fundamental aspects of civil liberties, public safety, and the very nature of policing in a democratic society. We are privileged to have two distinguished guests to navigate this complex terrain. Ms. Imani Adebayo, a renowned human rights lawyer and the director of a prominent civil liberties organization, will be arguing for increased restrictions. And Mr. Marcus Cole, a retired police chief with 3 decades of experience, who now serves as a law enforcement consultant, will offer his perspective on the operational realities and current safeguards. Our format for this evening will consist of opening statements from each speaker, followed by 2 rounds of moderated discussion, where they will have the opportunity to respond to specific questions and each other's points. We will then conclude with closing statements from both Ms. Adebayo and Mr. Cole. Let us begin with Ms. Adebayo's opening statement.
Thank you, Dr. Hayes. The core of my argument this evening is unambiguous. The current framework governing the use of lethal force by law enforcement is demonstrably insufficient and insufficiently restrictive. This insufficiency leads to a tragic and often preventable loss of life, disproportionately affecting marginalized communities and systematically eroding the already fragile trust between the public and the police. The preservation of human life must be the paramount consideration in every interaction involving state authority. It is a fundamental duty of care. Yet, we repeatedly witness incidents where this principle appears to be secondary to other considerations. The psychological trauma inflicted upon families and entire communities by these events is profound and long-lasting. Therefore, we advocate for a fundamental paradigm shift, one that prioritizes de-escalation not merely as an option, but as the primary, mandatory strategy in encounters with the public. This must be underpinned by comprehensive, continuous, and reality-based training, alongside clear legal mandates that leave no room for ambiguity. Furthermore, the criteria for employing lethal force must be significantly tightened. It should be permissible only as an absolute last resort, when there is an undeniable, imminent threat of grievous bodily harm or death, and unequivocally no lesser means available to neutralize that threat. Finally, to rebuild trust and ensure accountability, every incident involving lethal force must be subject to an independent, transparent, and rigorously impartial investigation process, free from any internal influence. Only through such comprehensive reforms can we hope to stem the tide of unnecessary deaths and foster a police service that truly protects and serves all members of our society with equal regard for their lives.
Dr. Hayes, Ms. Adebayo, thank you. I want to begin by stating unequivocally that every loss of life in any interaction with police is a tragedy, deeply felt by the officers involved and the community at large. However, it is crucial to approach this discussion with a comprehensive understanding of the challenging realities of policing. Current lethal force policies, far from being lax, are meticulously designed to strike a delicate balance between ensuring public safety, protecting officers who are often thrust into harm's way, and upholding individual rights within volatile, high-stakes situations. The notion that further broad, sweeping restrictions can be imposed without significantly impairing an officer's ability to respond effectively to genuine, life-threatening dangers is, I believe, a perilous oversimplification. Policing is an inherently dangerous profession. Officers are frequently confronted with unpredictable individuals, some of whom are armed and intent on causing serious harm or death. Lethal force is, and must remain, an option of last resort, employed only when an officer reasonably believes there is an imminent threat of death or serious physical injury to themselves or other members of the public. We operate under established legal standards, such as the, quote, objective reasonableness standard articulated in Graham versus Connor, and officers undergo extensive and continuous training in use of force continua de-escalation, and crisis intervention. My primary concern is that overly prescriptive, blanket restrictions could induce a dangerous hesitation in officers during critical life-or-death moments, a hesitation that could have tragic consequences for innocent civilians or the officers themselves. Instead of imposing broad new limitations, our focus should be on enhancing current frameworks. More sophisticated scenario-based training, better mental health support for officers dealing with trauma, and the continued integration of technologies that improve situational awareness and accountability. Continuous improvement is vital, but it must be pursued in a manner that does not cripple the capacity of law enforcement to protect the communities they serve from genuine threats.
Thank you both for those comprehensive opening statements. Ms. Adebayo, you've strongly advocated for de-escalation as a primary, even mandatory, strategy. Mr. Cole, drawing upon your extensive experience, what are the practical limitations or significant challenges you foresee in attempting to implement de-escalation techniques universally, especially in volatile, rapidly evolving encounters where time is of the essence?
Dr. Hayes, de-escalation is indeed a vital tool and a core component of police training, successfully resolving many situations. However, its universal application faces challenges in scenarios like active shooters or sudden deadly assaults, where immediate action is paramount to save lives. The window for de-escalation can be non-existent in such instances. Assessing true intent under extreme stress is also incredibly difficult. If officers are mandated to absorb excessive risk before decisive action, it could lead to tragic outcomes for officers or civilians. It's a delicate balance.
Mr. Cole, while extreme scenarios exist, the idea that de-escalation is broadly unfeasible is contested by successful models in other jurisdictions. Better training can expand its effectiveness considerably. Technologies like advanced, less lethal options and body cameras can support de-escalation and provide accountability, creating more time and clearer evidence. The split-second narrative sometimes overshadows earlier failures in an encounter that might have prevented escalation. A focus on proactive de-escalation from the outset is crucial.
Mr. Cole, you've underscored the importance of existing accountability measures within law enforcement. Conversely, Ms. Adebayo, you voiced significant concerns about their current sufficiency and highlighted the disproportionate impact of lethal force on certain communities. Ms. Adebayo, what specific reforms to accountability mechanisms do you believe are most critical to genuinely build trust? And Mr. Cole, what are your views on the feasibility of such reforms and their potential operational impact on policing?
Thank you. To build trust, we need mandatory, independent civilian oversight bodies with power to investigate and recommend discipline. There must also be stricter consequences for unlawful force. Qualified immunity requires substantial reform, as it often shields misconduct, thereby eroding public faith. Finally, comprehensive, transparent national data collection on use-of-force incidents, disaggregated by demographics, is essential for true accountability.
Ms. Adebayo, I agree that transparency and accountability are paramount for maintaining public trust. However, some proposed reforms, while well-intentioned, present significant practical challenges. For instance, civilian oversight bodies might lack specialized expertise in police procedures and use-of-force dynamics, potentially leading to flawed findings. Qualified immunity protects officers from frivolous lawsuits when making good-faith decisions in dangerous situations. Drastically altering it could lead to officer hesitation, which ultimately endangers the public. We must also acknowledge existing measures like internal affairs, body cameras, and prosecutorial reviews. Strengthening these existing systems, ensuring their impartiality and thoroughness, might be more effective than overhauling structures that also serve to protect officers acting lawfully.
In closing, I want to reiterate that advocating for more stringent restrictions on lethal force is not an anti-police stance. It is fundamentally a pro-life, pro-justice, and pro-community position. The tangible benefits of such reforms are clear and compelling. Fewer preventable deaths, a significant reduction in the collective trauma experienced by our communities, particularly the most vulnerable, and crucially, an enhanced sense of legitimacy and trust in law enforcement. Change is not only possible, but profoundly necessary. Many other democratic societies operate under more restrictive use-of-force policies without any demonstrable compromise to overall public safety. Indeed, often with greater public confidence in their police services. We stand at a crossroads where we can choose to perpetuate a cycle of harm and distrust, or we can embrace a paradigm shift towards genuine force minimization, robust, independent accountability, and a renewed commitment to the sanctity of every human life. Let us choose the latter.
I too wish to emphasize that the goal of continuous improvement in policing, including the reduction of harm in all encounters, is one we all share. Every officer desires to de-escalate and resolve situations peacefully. It is vital to remember, however, that police officers are members of our communities, tasked with an exceptionally difficult and often perilous job. They are expected to make life and death decisions in fractions of a second, under immense pressure, with incomplete information. My caution throughout this discussion has been directed against well-meaning reforms that might inadvertently increase the risks to officers and, consequently, to the public they are sworn to protect, by impeding their ability to take necessary, lawful action in critical moments. The path forward, I believe, lies in collaborative efforts. Communities and police must work together to find balanced solutions that enhance officer training, provide better support systems for officers, and are rooted in realistic assessments of the complex threats they face daily, while always striving for greater accountability and public trust.
Ms. Adebayo, Mr. Cole, I extend my sincere gratitude to you both for your insightful, articulate, and vigorous contributions to this incredibly complex and important discussion this evening. You have adeptly highlighted the core tension at the heart of this debate: the undeniable imperative to protect every human life and ensure justice for all, weighed against the critical need to empower our police services to effectively maintain public safety, often in dangerous and unpredictable circumstances. The perspectives shared tonight underscore that there are no simple answers, but a profound need for continued, thoughtful dialogue. I encourage our audience to reflect on the nuanced arguments presented and to continue engaging with this vital topic. That concludes our broadcast. Thank you for joining us.